Hello, and welcome to In Sequence, a comics podcast for everyone. I'm Matt, and with me today are your panelists. Introduce yourself, panelists.
Hi, I'm Gillen.
I'm Robin.
And I'm Scout.
And today we are going to be talking about two books, Angela, Asgard's Assassin, and Angela, Queen of Hell. Before we get into our proper front matter, I want to give y'all a little bit of who Angela is and where she came from, because it's kind of complicated and is a little bit important to the books.
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually learned while researching that Angela was unfortunately created by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, interesting.
Did not know this, but she was created for the Spawn comic books that are published by Image. And in a weird legal battle between Gaiman and Todd McFarlane, Gaiman ended up winning ownership of the character and then sold the rights to her to Marvel. And they reintroduced her as the long forgotten sister of Thor Odinson in an event called Original Sin, right before these books that we're about to talk about today came out.
Interesting.
It is just a very strange. This is super. This happens with superheroes a lot, where certain characters are owned, and then they're a company gets bought, and so those characters now exist in the DC universe or something like that. But that reintroduction happened right before the books that we're going to talk about today. I will jump into the front matter. I'm going to do these one right after the other, because I think talking about these books together as kind of a single item is probably the thing that makes the most sense. So Angela, Asgard's Assassin was written by Kieran Gillen and Marguerite Bennett. One of the artists was Stephanie Hans. One of the pencilers was Phil Jimenez. The colorist for Phil Jimenez's work was Romulo Fajardo Jr. Inkers are LeBeau Underwood and Scott Hanna, and letterer is Clayton Cowles. Angela, Asgard's Assassin tells the story of Angela, the long-lost sister of Thor that we talked about. Angela was raised in the realm of heaven and believed herself to be an angel. And after she discovered her true parentage during that Original Sin event, she returned to Asgard only to immediately kidnap her newborn baby sister. And the 6 issues of Angela, Asgard's Assassin follow Angela on the run from the Asgardians alongside Sera, who she's super gay for. Angela, Queen of Hell, which is the next, well, it's not the next, we can talk about that, but it is a follow-up series to Angela, Asgard's Assassin. It was written by Marguerite Bennett. The artists are Kim Jacinto and Stephanie Hans. Colorist is Israel Silva, and letterers are Clayton Cowles and Travis Lanham. Angela, Queen of Hell follows up on the last-minute twist of Angela, Asgard's Assassin. After learning the truth that all angels are doomed to an afterlife of slavery, Angela journeys to Hell in order to save Sera. She quickly learns that she won't be able to do that without overcoming 3 trials and becoming the Queen of Hell herself. That is a lot. There is a lot going on in those descriptions, but I guess before we get into it, I just want to check the vibe. How did we feel reading these books?
I had a good time. It's been forever since I read a Marvel comic book.
I had a struggle.
I also had a struggle, to be clear.
Yeah. This is the most that this reading has felt like a chore to me.
Interesting.
I basically, my reading strategy for these books was to read until I physically had to get up and stop reading because I was so annoyed by the writing. That was kind of my experience of the whole thing, except for some little bits and pieces throughout. Yeah, didn't care for this one.
Fair enough.
Did that threshold get significantly worse in the second trade?
I think I discovered different forms of annoyance based on which book we were reading. I think we'll get into it later, but on pure prose, I think the second trade is more frustrating, but there's also more that I like in that collection. So it was sort of a trade-off.
Interesting.
No, I will say, while I did have a fun time, I also could feel the pain of reading it, especially the second trade with some of the choices made narration-wise. But also, I feel like this was just an incredibly wordy comic.
There was a lot of words to read.
A lot of dialogue and a lot of narration. And I didn't realize until halfway through the second trade that Hoopla lets you look at panel by panel. So the way I was reading was zooming in, dragging my cursor along the page, and then zooming out and clicking the next page, which probably didn't help. But yeah, definitely very, very word heavy.
Yeah, this was the first reading that we've done where I was also reading through Hoopla via borrowing from like my library's Hoopla affiliation. This was the first time I got it up and running on my iPad versus just reading on my phone. And I'm so glad I did, because those words would have been very small on my phone. And there were so many of them to read.
Yep.
Yeah. Reading this is my second time reading this. I still really enjoyed Angela Asgard's Assassin. I had a really great time reading that book specifically. I'll say Kieran Gillen is one of my favorite comics writers, so that's part of what's going on there too. Angela Queen of Hell, I think I actively hate, actually. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening in Angela Queen of Hell. It's also like the first time we get like an explicit kiss between these two people, which is cool. And I did promise Robin some like girls kissing, and that is one of the reasons we read this book.
But at what price?
At what price? But reading it, I don't know. I think this was like the second comic book that I read when I got back into comics as an adult. And so I don't know if I just wasn't processing what was going on. Like I caught jokes that I understand now because I've read more comics, but I did not remember all of the like cringy referential shit that's in Angela Queen of Hell.
Dude, it's
like
really
it's really a page sometimes.
Like I think that the kind of plot of them going through hell and doing these trials, I think that would rip.
Yeah.
But it's constantly undercut by the jokes. And I'm like, no, this would be so good if you just like leaned into the like Shakespearean tragedy of it all. Basically.
Yeah.
And like actually like did the damn thing and made it really intense. But I would say I definitely agree that the first one is far and away I prefer to the second one.
I did want to ask the people who read more superhero stuff, like how long has the writing in these books been like this? Like, and by like this, I mean, I kind of think of it as like Joss Whedon disease, where every serious moment has to be undercut with a joke. And there's lots of like pop culture references, and every character ends up kind of feeling like Deadpool because everyone wants to make jokes. No one feels differentiated in that way. And I know we're talking more about that happening in Queen of Hell, but it first started really knocking me in Asgard's Assassin. Like when they go and meet, there's a point where they go and meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's a thing where it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy are these kind of wacky kind of characters. There's like Star-Lord who has very pop culture references, but that's what really made me start to notice it, because I was like, oh, everyone is talking like these characters. And so it kind of means that even though these are supposed to be the silly characters, everyone is making jokes, so no one feels different from each other. So is that like, at some point that became a phenomenon? I'm just curious if you guys know, like, how do we pinpoint that?
I personally, again, I haven't read a ton of Marvel comics. I think the only other Marvel comic that I like really remember reading was the Matt Fraction Hawkeye, which like is distinctly not like this.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Is that the one that's like there's no word? Is that like a wordless one or something? Or there's like an issue of it that is?
Yeah, that's the one that everybody knows about.
Okay.
I mean, other than that, I think I read like one trade of Miss Marvel and one trade of Daredevil back in the day. And like, I feel like Miss Marvel definitely had some of this, but I also kind of brushed it off because she's a teenager.
Yeah, I would say this came out in 2015. So it's like in the thick of 2010
that kind of
that's a good point.
Humor stuff.
Yeah.
So if the question is when did this start happening, it's like the late 2000s.
Yeah.
And in some ways it still happens, right? But I think that this is not every one of these. I will say it happens more in Marvel because it's kind of a Marvel house style and the way that Marvel has their like art house style. But yeah, we are in the thick of smarmy self-referential dialogue. And to be totally honest, like I know what you're talking about because it's the Guardians and so that happens. I feel like the first trade in Asgard's Assassin, it takes itself a little bit more seriously, just in that like it is about Angela's like whole thing about like making deals and nothing for nothing. And that is taken like really straightforwardly seriously, where like even that, which I was really into, gets like kind of ignored for a bit in Queen of Hell. And yeah, so that's kind of like how I positioned those two books with regards to like the quippiness.
I agree. I think there was in the first trade there was a particular sequence I noted of really enjoying, and it was the song sequence where there's just this the fight with her and Thor and the like very poetic kind of song that is narrated over it. I felt like was really good. And then there's not as much to me of that in the second, where it's a lot more like jokey.
Yeah.
There's also like we'll get there, but there's a whole section at the end of that second trade that I'm like, where are we?
The 7 years thing.
Yeah.
Not even before that. Like,
just like the fact that they're in Brooklyn.
I understand what's happening in the 7 years thing. Like, I suppose in the context of what's happening around it. But even the fact that like it felt like the end of the Hell sequence was the end of the story.
Yeah.
And then they were like, but there's still half a trade left. And I was like, what are we doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I said in my notes that it feels kind of out of nowhere, but I do love I do love them like getting their apartment together in New York City.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I wanted more of. I was like, I wouldn't actually read more of this, but I was like, this is the kind of story I'm more interested in. I think that is the things that I like more about the second trade are there is an attempt, whether or not it's successful, there is an attempt, I think, made to make Angela and Sera and Leah to some extent into like characters of their own and like explore more of like their stories. And I think Asgard's Assassin feels so much more plotty, where it's just like, we gotta throw this baby into a furnace. And so it's like every issue is like they go somewhere, they hide out for a little bit, bad guys show up, they punch each other, they leave. And it just felt like that over and over and over. And I had like no sense of who Angela and Sera were. And in the second trade, I got some ideas, found them largely annoying, but there was some attempt to dig into like who they were and what they mean to each other, which is something I want to get into more, the ways in which I find that stuff frustrating. But I think that's what I liked about that. And that's why, like you were saying, Matt, the stuff where they go to New York, I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, how does this play out? These two like gay moms of their magic teenage daughter is sort of what it becomes, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the stuff that I really enjoyed about that section. So I'll say this. I was introduced to these characters in Marvel Snap. I did not know who these people were before then. Angela early on in Marvel Snap was like one of the best cards. In fact, I would argue is like still mechanically one of the best cards. And then there's like this ad/music video for the song called Hero by Martin Garrix and Jake that's animated with Marvel Snap stuff. And in it, it's like a bunch of couples from Marvel Comics, and in it there's like a Angela and Sera section. And I think we were talking in Discord one day and I was like, wait, Angela and Sera are gay together? And then someone was like, oh, I'm going to read these books. And so I read them too. And I really liked Asgard's Assassin, and honestly had forgotten really what happened in Queen of Hell, which is kind of why I'm like, oh, I think I just don't like it actually. But the thing is, like, that's as much as I knew about them going in, but I think it's honestly all that anyone knew about them going in, because this is only the second time that Angela has showed up in Marvel Comics before that, and the first time that Sera has.
Yeah, I was very curious about where Sera came from. After reading like the first edition, I was like, what's her story and so forth. And most of what I found was videos of people complaining that her card in Marvel Snap was too powerful. Like I couldn't, and that's how and I realized eventually, because there's no other comics.
The power of lesbianism is too strong.
Yeah, I think the two books do a disservice to themselves by not setting up some of those character moments. There is a third trade, to be clear. It is between these two books, and some of the stuff that happens near the end of Queen of Hell references that trade. I didn't have us read it because, one, I haven't read it, but two, it is related to the Secret Wars Battle World event. And we just don't need to go down that road. Like, that is just like, I can't do that to you all. And like, we don't have time. And I mean, I'll probably read it at some point. And I'll let you know, if it's interesting or anything. So I'm curious if there's any character stuff in there. But, as we learned in Queen of Hell, those are like alternate universe versions of these two characters as well.
Yeah, I think the Brooklyn stuff works in there's a lot of stuff in both of these trades that works for me in a vacuum, but in the context of like everything around any of those moments, it is minimized and doesn't work as well because a lot of it does feel very, Robin, you talked about humor undercutting dramatic moments. I think that both of these, and this could just be something that comes from me not having a lot of experience with reading comic books, and so I'm not used to the particular kind of storytelling and the style of writing here, but a lot of it feels like it is at odds with itself. There's moments where like, oh yeah, this is like a really cool melodramatic moment that works if it's taking itself seriously. And then the next page will be like, well, that just happened. And I'm like, okay, so now the melodrama is not working because you're not taking the melodrama seriously in the way that like melodrama needs everybody to be bought in on it for it to really work. And I think that was the thing that I was running into the most with this was just like none of it's hamstringing itself very often by like not being able to commit to a tone.
Yeah.
I agree.
It makes it feel unconfident, like it needs to undercut itself because it doesn't feel like it can stand up. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, well, the real comics nerds are not gonna like vibe with this unless we kind of like poke fun at ourselves because we're doing something new and risky and we have to show them that like no, we know it's silly. And it's like no, you can be confident. You're Marvel, you've got a lot of money, be confident.
Yeah.
There's something which I think this is actually like comes from the Marvelification of Disney properties in general, but there's stuff in here that is akin to like when a Star Wars property will reference itself and be like, you see what we're doing, you see what we're doing, we're the thing, and you remember that from the other movie.
The one
wasn't
that you
kind
liked?
of silly?
Yeah.
But also wasn't it kind of silly? Isn't it kind of silly that like everybody thinks about that and it was really like everybody thought it was so cool, and it's kind of silly, right? Like it's a little silly in hindsight, everybody, aren't we? But
like Obi-Wan saying hello there on the Obi-Wan TV show.
Shut the hell up. No, he did not.
He does.
Oh my God.
He's referencing a meme.
I don't like to think about the Obi-Wan show.
I guess what are some parts that you all want to talk about, good or bad?
I would love to talk about how we feel about Angela and Sarah's relationship, because I feel like it barely exists. I read this whole book and I don't understand how these two feel about each other, other than they kiss sometimes and they say they love each other, and that's how we know they're in a relationship. But if you took out every page of them kissing and every page of them looking at each other and going, we're in love, I would not know that they're in a relationship together. Like, they do not seem to have they don't have inside jokes. They don't look and talk to each other as if they care about each other more than any other characters in the world. And I don't understand like the basis for their relationship outside of the sort of like, you saved me. And I don't know, maybe it's just the effect of like, we're the only two dykes in heaven, so I guess we're gonna date. Like, I don't know. It felt like it felt to me like someone at some point in the process of writing this book was like, we want to have this centered on a gay couple. And so they did that without like doing the writing that would make them feel like a couple, which is interesting to me, especially because I looked up the writers, mainly because I wanted to see if there were any trans women involved in writing Sera specifically. And the answer, as far as I could tell, was no, which is a big problem. But I was also like, wanted to just look up the crew or whatever. And Marguerite is a lesbian. She came out a couple, like when this comic came out. So it's not like the kind of thing of like, oh, this is written by a bunch of straight men, so they don't get it, which I think makes it more confusing that it didn't feel real to me. Like there was nothing there to hold on to.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think the like saving Sera thing works for me, especially because there's the sort of like small little like flashback moments you see of like her giving her the flute and like, you know, saying like, hey, because her whole thing is like, you have to repay a debt. And like, she kind of like puts that off for the flute because it's like the one time she gives her a gift. So there's like these little, like I was latching onto those things for their relationship, but I'm absolutely with you. They are not giving you those like interaction moments. I think we get one on the Guardian ship where she's talking about like, how do I know you're you? Like, you shouldn't be here. Because the whole thing is like, before this comic book, Sera died. And as far as we know in this first comic book, when angels die, they just die. They don't go anywhere. And she's like, you shouldn't be here. How did you get here? And so she's like, are you really you? And they have that little moment where you like see how she found her and she asked her 3 questions only she would know, those kind of things. So we get some of those, and that was like the foundation enough for me. Absolutely with you though, that we don't get really anything that like establishes them as a couple until like those last 2 issues of the second trade.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm kind of with Matt here, but that's probably because I'm coming into it with my own like, me coming into this with Angela is every paladin character that I've ever played who has a very strong code of ethics that they break as soon as they find someone that they care about. And that is also just a character archetype that not only I enjoy playing in games, but also enjoy like reading characters that have a very like strict code of how they need to live their life, how they work, how they function, and they meet someone, and whether it's platonic or romantic, like that one person becomes the thing that they are willing to like destroy everything that they have kind of used to make themselves who they are at that point. And that's just kind of a character archetype I like.
Yeah.
So I think for the first book, as soon as it was kind of like, as soon as I found out that Sera died and came back, and part of it was probably because of how much Angela was like wanting her back, I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah, me too.
These two are it.
Well, the Paladin comment too, like I took a screenshot of one of the panels from Queen of Hell where Angela says, but I say this to you, kings and queens and consorts of hell, do not make me return to put things right once more. Angels are meant to see balances restored, prices paid. We're not meant to feel, but all this I did out of love. And I just put, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. It's like upsetting her code is it's like, it's what the book is.
And that also is one of the notes that I made, was that and the following panel where it's like, can you imagine, like, I did this out of love. Can you imagine what I would do out of hatred? And it's like, that's exactly like, that's the kind of shit I love in a character. So I think that's why I had so much fun with this book, is Angela seems written expressly to appeal to me.
Yeah. It is a good trope. I think that's the reason you and I are liking it, is because it's a particular trope that works for the two of us.
Yeah, I think so. But I definitely agree, like, that it doesn't seem as much of like a typical relationship where you don't really see like the little things. You just get the big melodrama of it all, which again is something that I don't really mind because of a lot of the literature and stuff that I kind of am drawn to, where I don't necessarily need the little things. I like the big stuff. So again, I really liked the plotty one. I think it was a lot more fun.
Yeah. Were any of you Glee people?
Yeah, unfortunately. I wasn't like crazy about it, but I was like the target audience at that time, and I did watch it weekly with my friends. Like,
yeah, I feel like anytime, like, yes, I went through a phase where I was deeply invested in Glee, but I always did it like separated from any of the online fan bases or like anybody else who was really like consuming it that much. So it always like, was I really into Glee? Yes, but like in my own little bubble.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I only bring it up because, Robin, your comment about like their relationship just kind of only existing when they tell you it exists is exactly how I feel about Kurt and Blaine in that show.
Shut up.
Like,
that's so real.
They introduce Blaine as a love interest, but you only know that because they talked about him on Twitter as a love interest.
No, that's so real. And that's the unfortunate thing.
And then the first time that they ever have any like relationship at all is the episode where he tells him that he's interested and they kiss for the first time.
That's every relationship in Glee, though. Like, to be fair,
that's so true.
Every episode of Glee, they're introducing a new relationship that didn't exist until they spoke it into being, and then you're supposed to understand and to be really into it.
Yeah, unless it's Finn and Rachel.
Yeah.
Man, what a weird show.
Yeah, anyway,
Man,
we're not talking Glee today. We're talking Angela.
Is there a Glee comic book? We could read that.
There probably is.
I'm going to look it up right now. Glee comic book.
I'm afraid.
Archie meets Glee.
Oh, God.
That is the only one that exists. It is Archie meets Glee.
Wow.
It's a crossover with Riverdale.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'm into it.
Wow. Was it a crossover with Riverdale when Riverdale the show was coming out?
I think
or
so.
Just River Oh my God.
That is so many levels of camp.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like, I do kind of want to know about this.
Hard pivot. I want to talk about the art in this book.
Okay.
Because I have a hunch that it might be the thing that all of us can agree on, or at least most of us can agree on. In both of these books, I think Stephanie Hahn's work is spectacular. You'll notice that like on the splashier, more painted pages, that's Stephanie Hahn or Stephanie Hahn's.
Mm-hmm.
And the other artists that are involved with both of the books are doing the more like Marvel House style, kind of like hard lines with like shiny colors and stuff like that. I really don't like Marvel House style. I read a lot of Marvel comics and I don't love that art style. So I don't know. There's a page, I didn't screen cap it, but I put some in our notes, but the page in Queen of Hell when like they're like confronting Hela and it's this like green painted page and Hela's like almost like looking to the side, like away from them. It's a sick painting. It's amazing. I think everything Stephanie Hahn's does in this book is incredible. I think the to work with Stephanie's art, there's also some really interesting layouts. I think, unfortunately, those layouts lead to some of the problems we talked about, like with the wordiness of the book. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know. If you go to the notes, like the last image that I have, I'll put this in the chapters. But like,
yeah, it's really strong.
It's these 2 pages, man. This is the page that I remembered from reading these 2 books like 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Just like incredible. You've got Angela kind of framed in like a circle, and the narration is going around that circle. But then on the outside of the circle, you have these images of her and Sarah like at home as she's like afraid that Sarah's not going to be there when she wakes up. It's just like it's a beautiful page. I love this page so much.
I think it's gorgeous. The way her hair is like not defined, I think really helps with it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up like Stephanie Hahn's specifically being behind all of the stuff that is sort of flashback or dream sequence or memory, where it is more a lot of lineless or almost lineless, very sort of loose painting style, because all of that was by far my favorite stuff in the book. And it's really interesting. I don't know anything about the Marver. I don't know anything about the Marvel House, the Marver House style, the Marvel House style. So I don't have any context for that, but all of the times when that style is being broken to look like something different are the moments where I was like, oh, this looks really good.
Yeah. A lot of that like ending sequence in Queen of Hell was the sort of painting style. And I was curious. I was like, I wonder which artist this is, because this stuff is incredible.
Yeah. All of that stuff. Even if I feel like all of that was story-wise rushed in a weird way, and I suppose that's because it's actually referencing back to something we didn't read, and so it's not supposed to have like narrative staying power in the same way. Like, but the way that it looked visually was really one of the best parts of that trade.
Yeah. I do kind of feel like, although I really like that stuff visually, I feel like it has a similar issue for me as a lot of the writing, especially in Queen of Hell. I think the writing in, and even the art in Asgard's Assassin was a little more, you could say, down to earth, you could say boring, depending on your proclivities. Yeah. But it was just a little more it was what you expect more, I think. I guess. Yeah.
It was a little more consistent also. Like it felt consistent. Even all the way through.
Yeah. But I feel like in Queen of Hell, there was a lot of like you mentioned the Jill. A couple of people have mentioned it, but Jill, you had mentioned like the kind of melodramatic statement kind of speech things, like even the song in the first trade or things like that. Feels a very similar way that the art does, where it is arranged around these moments where like you can like hear the guitar sting that would have happened if this was a movie in your head. Yeah. It's like these very like, here's a very dramatic image. Here's a very like forceful like statement that I think like work on their own, but make it sometimes hard to follow for me. Like these layouts in particular, like the more interesting the page layouts got, the more I was like, wait, what is happening? Like, what is the sequence of events? Who am I listening to? Maybe that's a me problem. I don't know. But it was these things where I was like, I can appreciate this as on its own, but the way that it fits into the larger context of the book feels very, very messy. But I don't know, there's some stuff that works both ways. Like you mentioned that one panel where it is Hela and it's green, and that's all I remember out the panel is it's just like there's an image of Hela and it's very green, but it's stuck in my head as like my favorite part of either of these books because it is just so. There's something iconic about it that feels really cool.
Yeah, I would love a print of that piece, to be totally honest.
Yeah,
I just kind of want that on my wall.
It's so good.
Yeah, that page owns a lot of the full page sort of illustrative images versus the panel work is where I think, especially in Queen of Hell, stuff really like punches really well. The stuff where there's no margins, there's no panels. It's like a little bit of text, and the image is telling you everything. Are the places where it works the best for me.
I almost feel that some of this could have been an art book.
Yeah.
Or just like concepts like on somebody's Instagram, like their OC or something like that.
Yeah. I literally was just organizing my zines, and like I have a zine somewhere up in there that is literally just like concepts for AUs for a couple of characters, and there's like a couple of like sketched comics, but it's mostly just designs, and you can kind of get where they were going with their story, but it's really just an art book of concepts, and it still works because you still can kind of like see the through lines, but it's not like every little beat. It's just the big fun stuff that you want to see.
Gosh, I feel like that would have actually really worked for this.
Yeah, I think it would have been really cool.
Because I think that gets across like the thing that's driving Angela into hell to freeze is like emotion. And I feel like you can get that across in these big splash pages and these like a sentence of text as opposed to like many, many panels of text. I would read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the wordiness harms the storytelling a lot in many cases, and not just because of like the 7th Hamilton reference being made somehow.
I forgot that was in there, and I fully melted. Like I just I was sitting in my chair, and I was like,
when I saw the words Lin-Manuel Miranda, I was like, fuck. That was one of the points where I had to stand up and pace around my apartment for a little while.
I was like,
just know that I was pacing with you.
Oh, Lord.
My first note for Queen of Hell was not the Beyonce name drop.
It's so quick. It happens immediately. Beyonce and Frank Ocean are like characters in this book immediately.
So I want to know how much of this is written, like the first trade specifically is written by Kieran Gillen. How many of the words were like Kieran Gillen's words versus were Marguerite Bennett's? I feel like what I can extrapolate from these is that Kieran was like reining some of this in a little bit, right? And saying, hey, we have to have some like cohesion narratively. And I think that gets lost a little bit in Marguerite's solo book. However, I don't know, if we'd had 7 issues of the Brooklyn story, that might have been interesting, cohesive, just in a different way. But also, I just need to know, like, where did that wordiness come from? Because I've read Kieran's other stuff, and it's wordy when it needs to be and not when it doesn't.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think I've read any of Kieran Gillen's other stuff.
Kieran Gillen is, well, one, an ex-games writer, and two, one of my favorite comics writers, generally. He doesn't always hit, but he hits, I think, more than he doesn't.
Every time I see his name, I just think of fucking Kieran Gillen from British movies and TV shows alike.
He did a book with Stephanie Hans and Clayton Coles actually last year called We Called Them Giants. And that's the one I'm thinking of when I'm thinking like, he doesn't always write this wordy. Like, it's not always a problem he has. That book is like, they've said basically it's like what it would be like to be a cat. It's very much like a metaphor about like it's like a person who is, you know, basically being taken care of by a giant in an apocalypse story. But yeah, it's a strange book. I didn't honestly love it, but it doesn't have some of these problems. But also Stephanie Hans is killing every fucking page in that book.
Hell yeah. Could be also just a matter of experience. It's that, you know, this is like, this was 2015. That's 10 years ago now. That's a lot of comics writing experience that can happen between then and now. Though I don't know how long Kieran Gillen was in the game before writing this either. You know, I don't know that much about his history as a writer.
I don't either. I looked into Marguerite Bennett's history, and this is like one of her first books for Marvel, but she was writing for DC on some smaller projects before this. She, I guess, went to school and like was taught by Scott Snyder, who is a really prominent Batman writer. And while she was in school, was asked by Snyder to write in the Batman annual that he was working on that year. So she was like a star pupil of his, essentially. And that's kind of like how she made it into the comics world.
Interesting.
I'm actually really curious since I've gone back and reread this and decided I didn't like Queen of Hell. I'm really curious to go read her stuff that's more recent and see what it feels like.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere this was her first solo book. And it kind of feels, you can sort of, my impression of this was her kind of like trying to do backflips to like show off a little bit. And it just doesn't, maybe at the time for some audiences, maybe it landed. But I think reading this with not the foresight, but the opposite of foresight, of like
hindsight.
The years of this kind of writing, the kind of ironic, jokey, whatever, it just feels like really rough to get through. I don't know, maybe I would feel differently at the time, but I kind of doubt it. There is sort of an impression of like almost desperation in the writing. But I know she did like the DC Bombshells book, which is supposed to be good. She did a Batwoman run or comic or issues or something that people like. So I am very curious to see if like, is this the way she writes and I just don't like it? Or is this kind of an outlier in the rest of her stuff?
Well, and she's leading Image's Witchblade series right now and has been since 2024. So
I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool. It's a very cool word.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
I'm into it.
It's an ongoing that's been going since like 2008. So basically it's a big property in Image that she was handed. So somebody trusts her to be able to like, you know, handle a big book.
Yeah.
So and people talk really highly, like you said, of Bombshells. They talk really highly of a lot of things that she's done. So I definitely want to read the Bombshells stuff that she's worked on.
Yeah.
I think for this one, she just really needed somebody to grab her by the shoulders and say, it's okay to not make a pop culture reference because it's just really like...
Like, I don't know why you don't think a journey of one angel into hell to rescue another angel who is her wife isn't interesting enough on its own.
That's
a story I want to read.
That sentence and I'm in.
Yeah.
You don't need to say it's a real Game of Thrones in here. We don't need that. It's already cool.
Oh God,
I don't need to be re-engaged.
That scene where like these
much.
two gods are talking about getting HBO passwords.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I got up and went and got food.
I'm like, just get Heimdall to watch it for you. Like,
like you lived in heaven and then you died and then you went to like hell prison. Like, how did you even hear of these things? You know what I mean? Like it makes
Whose HBO login do you have?
Like I think I would find it annoying regardless of the character, but it's also these ones in particular seem like they would be the least likely to know about any of that. They seem like they would be disdainful of any of these. Like if anyone around them made these jokes, they would like shove them down a flight of stairs is like the feeling of like the characters I get. So to hear them making these jokes is just like, what are we doing here?
What Marvel movies came out in 2015?
Oh no.
I think it's Guardians is around there.
I was going to say it's got to be Guardians near there.
I think that's also just an impulse of these big 2 comics that I don't like.
I was just going to say, weirdly, I think that the Guardians of the Galaxy in the first trade, in Asgard's Assassin, you could have just given them like all of the, that one didn't have as many pop culture references, but I almost felt like I was surprised at how down to earth the Guardians of the Galaxy were in that trade. And that was before I even read Queen of Elle. And then I read Queen of Elle and I was like, where are the Guardians of the Galaxy? I want them back.
What's funny to me is that like, I think this is like kind of upsetting, like you were talking about upsetting the paladin trope, right? Angela gets paired with the Guardians a lot. Like she becomes a Guardians member. There's a whole book called Asgardians of the Galaxy where she's like a lead character. And they make a joke about Asgardians of the Galaxy in Thor 3 or Thor 4 or one of the two. I don't know. And I think her like stoicism, it like leads to being a funny character almost. And so it's I think it's actually a pretty good pairing.
Yeah. It's like the thing I always think of like we're talking about paladins to bring it back to tabletop games. People often want to make like joke characters of just like, my name is Sneezes Mackenzie, whatever. But I think the funniest character you can thank you. I think the funniest character you can play is someone with no sense of humor and like bouncing them against someone who is funny. So I can see that working if Angela is just like the least funny person in the universe, pairing her up with the kind of jokey crew or whatever, like that makes sense. But then when she also starts telling jokes, it's like, no, that's not like you broke the thing.
Yeah.
I also I'm never, if I'm reading a story about like Angela or whatever character, I will never have the thought, I wonder what Groot is up to. Like that's just an impulse in comics that I don't think I'll ever really understand. It's like, they have their own book. What are they doing here? Like I want to hear about these people's story.
Yeah. I didn't read this, but clearly she had already known them before. So they were just people she was running to when she's like running place to place. Yeah. I want to have a fashion corner for a second.
I was just about to say, can I talk about the Faustian Queen? Because
oh my God.
I fucking love that design.
Yeah. One of my favorite things in comics books is just costume changes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I am absolutely here for every fucking costume change. The first one we get in this is when they find the wedding dress of Ciri, and it's just armor that gives Angela wings.
It's so good.
And previous to that, she's been in like leather panties with a tiny metal bra.
She's been in an outfit that I wasn't that big of a fan of, I gotta say.
I will say about this though, it is weirdly for like bikini armor. I do appreciate the restraints of like never sexualizing her. Like it is she is always in a position of power. And I think if you can project that while wearing a metal bikini, more power to you. So I did I agree, like the later costumes are way better, but I did appreciate that it was never like leering. Like I never detected that at all, which is hard to pull off, I think.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of that is Marguerite's influence on the book. I also love in Queen of Hell the costume change she gets when she becomes the co-rival.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Where she gets this like I like the furs with, I don't even know what you call those, like shoulder pads almost.
It's really good.
Oh, co-rival?
Or Corrival, I don't know.
That's the first, that just dawned on me too. I kept being like, Corrival?
The whole time I was pronouncing it Corrival, and I was like, what kind of crow are we talking about?
No, I took, it is...
Co-rival makes more sense.
Yeah. I took it as that since she's like, a candidate for the throne.
Trying to, wow, that makes a lot more sense. I was reading it as like Corrival, like Corvid and things like that. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, that's an interesting new word.
Yeah.
But Matt's makes a lot more sense.
It's really clicking some
things
together.
Yep, and there it is. I just looked it up in the dictionary, and it does mean rival or competitor. So, well, there we go.
It's a real word.
It is a real
I've learned a new word today.
But no, I love that outfit that she gets in Hell. She looks incredible.
It's really good.
There's another good costume change at the very end of issue 7 of the last issue of Queen of Hell, where the whole time Sarah has been in this like just sort of very plain like white gown, and there there is like in the last few pages of that issue, there's a like full page splash of just a kiss between Angela and Sera. And there's like a costume change during the kiss, like a magical costume change. Like you turn the page and she is now Sera is wearing armor as well, which I think more costume changes should be accompanied by splash page kisses, to be honest.
Yeah, the power of the kiss changed her outfit.
It's so good. Or wait, no, that wasn't the last issue. That was issue 5. But it's very cool.
I did like that part though. I liked that too.
Yeah.
I also love the puppy who shows up here.
Yes,
the puppy tells you your deepest, darkest flaws.
It's so good.
Tell us about the Faustian Queen, Jill.
Sorry, I just like big monster ladies.
Hey, never apologize for that.
I was like, okay, yeah, we've got a lot of, like, the Draugr was pretty, like, monstery, but for the most part, we've had a lot of, like, human-looking individuals, and the minute this alternate version of Angela shows up, and she's got 4 freaking limbs and just the wildest mane and a mouth that, like, kind of unhinges a little bit, I was like, damn, this is a cool-ass design. Like, if that came and got me with its tendrils, I would be intimidated. And also maybe a little...
Yeah.
You could say horny.
No, I get it.
A little what, Jill?
Well, you know. No, I just thought it was such a cool, like, alternate universe design for her.
Yeah.
It feels so different from
so
anything
cool.
else, like you're saying. It's really
Yeah.
it's a cool
Yeah.
moment.
I also do really genuinely enjoy alternate universe or alternate reality or alternate timeline like splits for characters. I mean, literally I'm in 2 different D&D campaigns right now on alternating Fridays where I play like 2 different timeline versions of the same character. So like I'm into it. So I was having a good time with that.
The one that really got me was when they're having the vision of the 7 years. Year 7 on Christmas Day, they're like Christmas outfits. And Angela's in this like regular ass sweater. And it's just so out of character. I
Leah's
love
little snowman sweater too is great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cute.
I like to see him in a sweater.
I like Leah's outfit at the end. I think it's very, like, I just think it's nice and flowy.
I'm honestly a big Leah fan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I want to know more about her too. She's like a magically substantiated handprint.
Yeah, the idea of a literal handmaiden, that really stuck out to me. I liked that a lot.
Okay, so I got to tell you about Secret Wars. I'm going to do my best.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Clear your schedule.
Learning about Secret Wars against our will.
So over a long period of time, a bunch of different stories happened in Marvel. Some of them on purpose, some of them just because when you run a big continuity, things get out of control. And in that large continuity,
made accidental comics?
Huh?
They made accidental comics?
Yeah, accidentally.
They accidentally made some?
You have a bunch of multiverses, essentially. And over a period of like 5 or 6 years, Jonathan Hickman starts writing the story that will eventually come to a head in Secret Wars, which is about collapsing all those multiverses back into a single universe. That includes the original Ultimate Universe of Marvel. So if you're familiar with like the Ultimates or Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate Universe is where Miles Morales came from originally. And the reason that he's in the primary Marvel universe now is because of Secret Wars, because Secret Wars collapsed all those universes into one.
Gotcha.
The way that happened is that there were all these incursions where like these universes were colliding on top of each other and things started to fall apart and they all reached the head and basically everything fell apart and what was left was Battleworld. And Doctor Doom was the god of Battleworld, and Battleworld had all these like territories. One of them involved like the 1602 universe, which is like historical Marvel. It's like a 1602 take on Marvel. That's where the trade we didn't read happens, is during Battleworld.
Wait, they put Spider-Man in 1602?
I think there's a Spider-Man in 1602. I'm not 100% sure. That 1602, to be clear, Neil Gaiman thing. So maybe you don't want to read it.
It all comes back to Neil Gaiman somehow.
Yeah, goddamn.
And not in a good way.
It does say Spider-Man is in there as a villain.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
A villain? They sent They sent Spider-Man into the past and he got evil.
In one of those universes, the thing with the hand, where like Hela lost a hand and it was reanimated into Leah, happen. Leah existed in that universe. She fell in love with the magic of that universe. Magik, the character, the X-Man.
Okay.
So the character that she's referencing when she says like the person that I loved isn't here, that she's talking about magic from her universe. And just when all those universes collapsed, Leah ended up in 616, which is like the primary Marvel universe. And they basically don't tell you how. They're like, don't worry about it. It happened. This is like,
sometimes it happens.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. So that is a overly broad description of what happens in Secret Wars to explain to you why Leah exists.
Wow.
Wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many of those little notes at the bottom where it's like, to understand this, read these 16 different issues of comics. And I was like, I won't, but I'm glad at least it's helpful to know that I can't understand this. Like, it's not me missing something. It's that there's lots of stuff that I can't, it's not in this book.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy those for that reason, because if I do want to know, I can go find it. And if I don't understand something, they often are telling me it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Because otherwise I'm not going to be like looking back and be like, who was this? What did they? Yeah.
It's like you don't need to understand this to enjoy the rest, like to understand the rest of the book.
I am a little bit curious as to how Leah got involved in this story. Like, I think she makes a lot of sense towards the end in the Brooklyn stuff, but like, you're writing this book and you're like, okay, we're going to have Angela rescue Sera from hell. Why is Leah there? Like, why do you involve Leah in this story? I'm not 100% sure that makes sense unless there was like an editorial reason. Like, was there a cliffhanger that showed Leah in 616 at the end of, you know, some Secret Wars tie-in? I don't have the answer to that question, but I don't really think that she fits in the main story of Queen of Hell.
Interesting. I guess this is because I don't have any context for Leah, but it made sense to me of like, oh, this is a servant of the current Queen of Hell who isn't happy with the regime and wants it changed. I was able to buy into that 100%.
I think you say it that way, it makes sense. I think the thing that I'm confused about is like, why Leah specifically? Like, why does she need to be like the hand of Hela cut off and, you know, reconstituted and all of that? But yeah, just the idea that like it's a handmaiden that isn't happy with the regime, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Wait, so she existed before this comic though, because of Secret Wars.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels that way, where it's just like, well, this character is related to Hela and they're going to go meet Hela. The same reason it's just like, well, you know, Baldur and the rest of these Asgardians are here because it's a story about Asgardians. Like, it kind of, I don't know, there's a sense of like opening the toy box and seeing like, well, here's all the pieces we have from this set. So we're just going to put them down there and they're all going to be involved.
I mean, that's how comics writers talk about writing comics too, is playing in the toy box. That is a really common phrase.
Just smashing our little Barbies together.
Matt, can you give us any further context on why dark elves are here?
Nope.
That's just like a Asgard thing, right? Or like...
they're like an Asgard thing. I remember vaguely from Dark World, but I also don't remember Dark World that well.
I remember it too, because I love how silly that movie was, because it was about dark elves.
Yeah, that movie was wild. That movie was also right before this.
I was like, they put WoW in Marvel? What do you mean there's dark elves here?
That movie was also right before this. I think it was 2014.
Don't really read Asgard stuff. Like I said, I read this because I liked Marvel Snap and because it was gay, and that's really it. Like I don't like, when I read Marvel comics, I'm often reading X-Men or just like classic stories that, you know, people recommend to me and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't read a ton of Avengers. I don't read a ton of Thor or anything like that. I'm not really a Hulk person.
There's a lot more Asgardians than I thought there were.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a ton.
There's so many of them, and I wasn't sure for a while if Thor was here or not, because I've never thought of Thor as like Thor Odin's son. So they just kept saying Odinson, and I was like, is that a different? He looks like Thor, but like,
I was like,
they could just have another guy who looks like Thor.
Oh, it's Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Thor, but he's not allowed to be called Thor because that's when he had lost his worthiness and Jane Foster had taken and she's Mighty Thor.
Shows up for like 3 pages for a while too.
I think that is actually the weakest part of the book. Like I like the Mighty Thor, but she did not belong in this book.
No, she showed up and I was like, hell yeah, this is gonna be cool. Like, get this other Thor in here. And then she just kind of hung out for a minute and went home.
Does nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Shows up, does nothing.
Oh, that's who that was?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we just, I know there's lots in Marvel. We got Girl Thor. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know who Girl Thor is, but she's here.
I think I remember it being like a pretty big deal. When
I remember it too. I don't read these books and I
was a
remember
thing.
it as a thing. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it was a big
Sounds
deal.
vaguely familiar.
It was definitely
a big
a big deal.
She's saying.
because I think the thing was like she had cancer or something, like as a not superpowered person, and then she got the power of Thor, and that let her.
They made her Thor to cure her cancer.
I don't think it cured her. I think it was just like she can't die while she's Thor, and then I don't know. I just remember that being sort of.
Oh no, she just always in
It just
perpetual
didn't affect her
cancer
while she
then?
was being Thor.
Gotcha.
They made a movie about it too, and that story was the best part of that movie. That movie is not very good.
Damn.
Bummer. Could have used more dark elves.
One of my other notes that I wrote is, am I to believe Odin and Freya fucked in the reality consuming flames dimension?
I think that's cool. I would read that issue for sure.
Yeah, actually.
They're like, well,
That you are to
what
believe
else are we
that.
going to do here?
Yeah.
Because the whole
I
thing
am
Might
with,
as well.
with the baby that Angela kidnaps is that Odin and Freya fucked in the all-consuming hell dimension, and therefore
And so
Surtur.
the baby is full of all-consuming hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surtur is also one of the parents, and that's why they have to throw the
Or
baby.
the father.
Third.
they have to throw the baby in the furnace to restore the furnace and also get the Surtur out of her.
I
Yep.
think that is my favorite part of the first trade is the one panel of the baby flying through the air.
Funny.
We have to talk about it because I was like, it was right after this extremely, like this big, like Jill was saying, this melodramatic scene, this fight scene between Thor and Angela set to sort of this heroic poem recited in the narration by Sera. It ends in this touching moment where Thor realizes that his long-lost sister cares about their baby sister, cares about her life in the same way that he does, and they make this truce, and then like you turn the page and Angela has thrown the child into the furnace.
Yeah. That actually was so good.
It fucking hit. It did. I was like, yeah. Oh yeah.
I forgot about that, and I had to go back 3 pages just to be like, what am I reading?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
What's happening?
I have learned reading superhero comic books that you just have to vibe sometimes, and they will eventually tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
me.
book is basically written in reverse. Like
That
all the
Yes.
details you need to know are told to you like near the end.
Yeah. Vibing and then letting them tell you what happened is me reading any Demon Slayer fight.
Oh, yeah.
When I read Demon Slayer. I was like, I cannot parse who is hitting who. I'm going to wait to the end and see who's alive.
Yeah. I do like that about Angela, Asgard's Assassin, where like, I did not enjoy the experience of reading it, but when you get to the end and it kind of unravels what's happening, like the sort of unknowability of Angela is interesting because she is like, these characters should all feel like weird aliens because they're all weird aliens.
Yes.
And I like that for a lot of this book, it's just her like tricking people and like being an asshole, and you don't really know why. And you kind of just have to go with it until at the very end. It's a little corny that she's like, and I just fixed everything. But I like that you don't know her motives for a long time because she wouldn't care that anyone knows her motives because she's the kind of like looking out for her own thing. And I do like that about it.
I think that as I've spoken about on this podcast before, I'm a big fan of stories where you get a little bit of something, like you get a little bit of like, did you know that the Glorbo happened? And everyone's like, yeah, the Glorbo. And you're like, oh, I wonder what the Glorbo is. And then, like 50 more pages happen, and then you get sort of this artistic flashback to the instance of the Glorbo. And you go, oh,
Next
the
issue, the
Glorbo.
Glorbo
I
saga.
get it
Now I
now.
understand the Glorbo.
I like that. I like it when that happens, and I think that trade, the trade does like a pretty good job of using that as a storytelling mechanism in a couple of different places.
Yeah. The interesting thing is reading those kinds of stories not week to week, like month to month in like issue by issue can be really tough.
Yeah,
And that's why like reading these trades can be really helpful. Like if
Yeah.
you were reading this story month to month, one, I don't think any of you would have kept reading. But two,
That's like
the consistency that we talked about, boring or not, in this first trade wouldn't have been there. And you may have felt differently about the whole of it even when you finished it.
Yeah.
I can imagine waiting for the next issue and then it's basically the same beats as the previous issue, just in different locations. Just be like, fuck off. Like, we've seen this.
You get 4 issues of they go to one place and then the Asgardians show up.
Yes.
And then the next issue, they go to another place and the Asgardians show up.
I feel like I did have experience, like when I was in like a teenager and I occasionally was like reading, like following some books. I feel like there were some times where that happened and I was just like, I'm done. Like I only need to read this once. I don't need the same plot to happen over and over.
Yep. I'm with you. Anything else that we want to add before we jump into further reading?
I feel like I would be derelict in my job a little bit if I didn't complain slightly about Sarah. Just to give my thoughts.
I was really curious to hear about your take on that. Yeah.
I mean, I will always be happier with more trans women in comics or stories or media or whatever than fewer. I think it's an issue though that as far as I can tell, no trans women were involved in the creation or writing of this character. And I think part of that, like the more important part of that is like trans women need jobs. Like there's so many people who could be doing that work and they should be getting that work. But the other thing is, even if that's not a thing that like, matters to you, I think you just get better stories out of it. Like I was really excited for this idea of like, oh, it's like the only maybe major trans character in Marvel at the time. Like I certainly don't know any off the top of my head. I feel like, I don't know, you get in genre stories like, oh, they're a weird alien from a planet where there's no gender and they kind of get credit as being a trans character, even though they're not really. This is like very explicitly a trans woman in the comic. And I do want to see that. But I think what you miss when you have a cis writer do that stuff is just the specificity. Like I kept waiting for Sarah to start feeling real to me. And there's like all these moments throughout both of the trades where they flash back to her as an anchorite, which is where they put the like quote unquote male angels, and talking about her whole story is kind of like, I always knew that I was a woman and so I didn't belong with all these men where they put me. And that's always expressed as like, I had this thing that I knew that I was and they wanted to make me something else and I just wasn't going to stand for it. And so I just stood up and said no. And that's like, I get where you arrive at that story as a cis writer, but it is so broad and so just general. Like it's like, sure, that's part of the experience is like at a certain point in your life, you realize who and what you are and you like assert yourself. But beyond that, it's just like, okay, how did she feel though? Like what was her life like? What was the realization like? What was coming out like? How is she feeling about that time of her life now looking back on it? Being able to like be who she is. And I think those are the specifics that you miss when you don't give that work to trans people. I think it just feels like a real missed opportunity. I think that's honestly where a lot of the stuff of like reaching for that like Beyonce reference right away. It's just feels like the most like, I don't know, what are the gays like? Which is a little unfair because it's written by Margaret Bennett, who is gay.
I had the same feeling, to be clear, Robin.
They like Beyonce, they like Hamilton.
Right. It just feels like you can only grasp those generalities if it's not your own experience. And I think that just like diminishes the experience of a reader to have this character who is nominally a trans woman, but might as well not be. If she were not, if Sarah were a cis woman, it would not change the writing of her character at all. And I think that's kind of an issue. I don't know. That's sort of my soapbox about it.
I appreciate
sense to me.
your soapboxing.
Anytime.
I just to not have any deep thought. I just appreciated that. I don't know if it was a dressing room or a pod where like we just see like Sarah walk into a dressing room and come out as a woman, and it just made me laugh. I was like, it was that easy.
The gender chamber.
Pod of gender confirm.
It reminded me of in Dark Souls 2, there is a thing called the gender coffin, and it's literally there's a coffin on a beach at the beginning of the game, and if you go into that coffin, when you come back out, you switch genders. And when that scene happened in this book, I was like, it's the gender coffin. Oh my god.
Holy shit. Gang, I'm going to Dark Souls and I'm hitting up that gender coffin. Let's go.
I know. I was curious about that too, though. I was like, what is that process where it's kind of just like, and then I just was a woman. And it was like, okay, do you want to go into, I would like to know about this like angelic HRT you're getting. Like I think honestly that does matter. Like that does impact like the fact that it was just a magic switch that was flipped. And like now my body is aligned with my own self-image. That matters, as opposed to I had to do a thing and it took a while and it was hard and people doubted me. It just sands down those rough edges in a way that I understand wanting to do that for mass market appeal. But as a trans woman reading these specifically, it's just like, come on, like there's a story to tell there and you didn't tell it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was I was also, I think you've put into words a lot of like sort of the wordless feelings that I was having about Sera as a trans character, of like, I was seeking a little bit more of context and friction. That clearly there would have been friction. There's friction that happened in her life and like in her world that we aren't seeing, which is fine for like the storytelling, but it is something that I would have been interested in seeing. And like they have the bones of like a genuinely really interesting like story for a transgender woman in this weird fantasy heaven.
The potential is there, and it's just there's not enough space.
Yeah, like she's in a society that is like explicitly and forcefully gender essentialist, and there's like it's so ripe for possibility with this character. I will say just to put a lid on like my thoughts on this, while I was looking up Sera just to see like what's the deal, what's been said about her, about her, I did find an essay by Zoe Tunnell, who is a trans comics writer, talking about how much she likes Sera and she likes these books and their relationship between Angela and Sera. So just to recommend that as sort of a counterpoint, I guess, to what I'm saying. Clearly worked for some women, and also just to say, read Zoe Tunnell stuff if you want to read a trans woman writing comics. She's
we
really
should read some
cool.
Zoe Tunnell, actually.
I agree.
We should put some Zoe Tunnell on the list. I was just searching to see how many AO3 stories there are with Angela Sera romance.
Oh shit, yeah.
Because I'm sure someone out there cares a lot about Sera and Angela and has written a story. Tagged romance specifically, I only see 3. Wow. And only 2 that are like only those 2.
I see 30.
I also, did you have the romance tag on it?
The ship tag. If it's got a slash, it's shipped.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's an and,
so,
it's
when I did that, I saw the same amount. I just put romance on there just in case it was like, just in case. Sometimes you get stories where it's like, this ship isn't here, but they just showed up for 5 minutes. You know?
Yeah. No, that is true. But yeah, no, I definitely they are written with that ship tag at the very least, quite frequent, quite more than I expected.
You asked about Marvel, like prominent Marvel characters that are trans. At the time, it really was Sera. There were others in like other universes or like
really
less important
minor characters.
Yeah, or like really minor characters. I mean, Sera, to be clear, is a minor character.
Yeah,
right.
But also more recently, and I'm talking like in the last 2 years, we got Escapade, Sheila Sexton, who is a trans queer girl. She was in a Young Avengers run. Not Young Avengers. She was in a New Mutants run, which is like the Young Avengers of the X-Men. Somebody's going to be mad at me for saying that, but that's true. Her friend, like her, basically like person in the chair Morgan read is non-binary, goes by they, them. And like they like pushed both of these characters pretty hard for the Pride season a few years ago. And then they've like continued to show up in books after that, which is not always guaranteed, especially when they show up for the first time in a Pride comic.
Yeah.
So
cool.
All right. Further reading then. We talked earlier about 1602 Witch Hunter Angela. Again, want to call out that is a Neil Gaiman joint. This was part of the Secret Wars event. It is definitely not required reading for the stuff that we talked about today, even though the last couple issues of Angela Queen of Hell do take input from that book. Like I said, I haven't read it. All the stuff that's like about like Lady Sera writing a play and like the origin of Faustian Queen, that's all 1602 Witch Hunter Angela stuff. We talked about this DC Comics Bombshells, which Marguerite Bennett was a part of. And this is basically like an alt universe series of stories where like a bunch of women from DC Comics got a bunch of like World War II stories where they all kind of like have like hot outfits. It's also super queer. There's a Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn story in here, which honestly, another thing we might read sometime if we want more girls kissing is the G. Willow Wilson run of Poison Ivy. I have heard it's good. I don't know anything about it, but like Ivy and Harley are a thing in the comics pretty seriously right now.
I think that's the one that
Even
I've
I
seen.
know about them.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that's the one I've seen panels posted of, and it looks pretty good.
Well, and they're getting a couples comic coming out pretty soon, actually. So, yeah, that's DC Comics Bombshells. You also mentioned, Robin, Batwoman, that Marguerite Bennett is a writer on. That is Batwoman Volume 3, issues 1 through 18. That is the 2017 run of Batwoman. Other writers on that are James Tynion IV, who did The Department of Truth, Steve Epting, and Jeremy Cox. We mentioned Witchblade earlier, which is an Image Comics book that Marguerite Bennett has been writing since 2024. I want to call out specifically The Wicked and the Divine because it is one of my favorite comic books, period. It's written by Kieran Gillen, and I can always recommend this book. The artist on that one is Jamie McKelvey, who Kieran collaborates with a lot. But if you want some more Stephanie Hahn's art, you can also check out Die, which was written by Kieran Gillen, as well as We Called Them Giants by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hahn's. Die is a TTRPG book and has a TTRPG associated with it as well.
Cool.
So I don't know, maybe something
Hell
you guys
yeah.
might be interested in. All right. In that case, I think this is the episode. In Sequence is a member of The Worst Garbage. You can find more about that at theworstgarbage.online, and you can find more about the show at insequence.pictures. Panelists, is there anything that you want to share with the listener?
I don't have anything in particular this time. Just you can find me at plottwist.card.co if you want to find any of my nonsense.
Yeah, you can find all my stuff at robinb.card.co.
You can find me on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Humble Goat. You can find any of the art that I do, including our podcast cover art, at scoutwilkinson.myportfolio.com. And I recommend that you check out all of our other podcasts on the TWG network for all of our different hosts if you like this.
Yep. And you can find me at youtube.com/@flowstatecrit. This is my last week of leave from work, and I am trying to get a long form video out this week. So we will see if that works.
Yeah.
Sending you
Sending
energy.
you energy.
Giving it to you.
Spirit bomb.
I also want to shout out, because we've not done this before, but I want to shout out AJ Fleury for their work on editing the show.
Yay.
The two of us share the work editing the show, but I want to start calling them out because they're the major contributor making this show happen. So
Thank you, AJ.
Also,
Thank you,
AJ. Just a reminder, you have at this point 2 more weeks to finish the first 9 volumes of Witch Hat Atelier. So if you have any more to do, probably get on that if you want to read them before listening, because it's quite an undertaking.
we have 2 weeks, and I picked up volume 8 today. So
You're ahead of me.
I think I'm gonna go to my local library and see how many of the volumes I can get from there, because I know they have like a pretty substantial number of volumes over there at the one.
Mine
down the
had
street from me.
5 through 9, so I have those. I've been reading the
God
rest
damn.
digitally.
Somebody's always got the first 3 checked out, and I'm
It's
like,
so
those are the
real.
ones I want to check out.
yeah, I need to go to my local library, and so should you. You should support your local library. And if you've got a comic shop near you, comic shops are always going through it. And if you want to, buy some comics there, they would surely appreciate it. And I think that's it. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.